trying to play 2 sports. I was working a part-time job during the day for a small business owner, and then I was running my own janitorial service at night. And it wasn't always fun going to football practice when you're tired because you spent a long night, working and then trying to study for classes. But it gave me a great opportunity to see, how a small business is run every day. I got to see my boss and his wife. They're staying up, late, night in, night out, just trying to make a living for them and their family. They wanted to live the American dream, and they wanted to, have a job that they were passionate about. They didn't get to go to work, go home at 5 o'clock. They worked well into the nights because they were trying to live their American dream. But I saw them, have to. We were just really burdened by, high, government tax rates. And if that would have been less of an issue, they would have been able to be more successful. And then in my own personal story, running on my own business, I realized having to pay, double taxes at the end of the year because I was self-employed. And so, tax season is still never a good time for me because, I'm always paying into Uncle Sam and never getting anything back. So, I realized the struggles that a small business owner has to go through. And, cleaning toilets, to pay my way through college wasn't fun. But I knew what I had to do because I had seen my parents do it for so many years. So, after I graduated from college, I'm still working these 2 jobs, but I'm not enjoying it. I really didn't care for it. It didn't rest well with me. And so, I'm looking for things to do. What can I do? And so I felt like, I wanted to make a difference in my community. I wanted to help that small business owner and alleviate some of the taxes that he was facing. He wasn't a big corporation, wasn't able to take advantage of those big corporate tax breaks. I wanted to help those families who wanted to, take their kids elsewhere and go to school, but because they were paying such high property taxes, they couldn't afford a private school education. I wanted to provide that school choice option for them. I wanted to do a whole lot of other things to reduce the size of big government. And so, I felt like working on a campaign would be the best way for me to get involved. And so I felt like I could make a difference. And I had, no political experience. I wasn't in a group like you guys are. I didn't work for a campaign. My daddy wasn't the governor or a judge or anything like that. And so, I just started sending out applications, and I got hired by a campaign, and they really took a chance on me. They really, were, putting a lot, on me and on them, because if I failed, it would look bad for the whole campaign. But I didn't really need a track record as much because I had the hard work ethic that my parents had taught me when I was being raised at home. And so I worked super hard. I worked those long nights. I worked well into the night most nights. But I did it, and it wasn't really hard for me because I was passionate about it. This is what I wanted to do. And so with the least experience on our campaign staff, by the end of the year, I was outperforming everyone. This was something I was passionate about, and I saw success because I worked hard and had great attitude. Attitude and effort, that's what my dad always talked about. Those are the 2 things that you can really control. And so, after the campaign season, we won. It was a great experience for me. It was really one of the greatest accomplishments in my life. But now, oh, great, now what am I going to do? Campaign season's over. What am I going to do with my life? And so that's when I heard about Americans for Prosperity. They came knocking at my door, and I started to learn more about them. They weren't just open for 9 months out of the year during election season. They were open year-long, trying to push policy that helps the taxpayer, helps alleviate taxes. They're trying to shrink big government. They're trying to provide that school choice for families. And they're trying to provide individual liberties like free speech on college campuses so that people can speak their minds and share ideas. And so I got hooked up with them, and I've been working for them now since the beginning of the year, and it truly has been a great experience for me because I can go to bed at night knowing that I made a difference. I might be tired, but I can go to bed and sleep well at night because I feel like I've made an impact on my community. I've helped the people in the state of Iowa and in our nation as a whole. And so, I encourage you, if you want to make a difference, you can get involved in YAL and AFP, in places that, you can make a difference. And they wanted me to kind of touch on recruiting, and that's what I did a lot of, working for the campaign, and then now working with AFP. But each and every one of you guys has a friend. I mean, I know people, you know people. You might say, oh, well, shoot, not all my friends are, hardcore on the right. Some of them are on the left even. But there's all certain issues like free speech that we can come together on. And with AFP, we're trying to provide opportunities where we can work with people on the right, the middle, and on the left at the same exact time. We can build these coalitions, and we might only work with them maybe once or twice, but we still have worked with them, and we've made a positive difference in this polarized government situation. And so, you have great opportunities to work with people who might say, oh, I'm not a Republican, or I'm not a Libertarian, but you can tell them about who you are and what the issue is, and you might be able to work with that person, even if it's only on just one issue. But, call up your friends, talk to them. You guys get a bunch of signups when you guys have that free speech ball. And sometimes, it might be intimidating, having this long list of numbers to call. And you might be running through that list, and you might be getting a bunch of no's, no, not interested, or something like that, but keep working at it. And then when you do get those contacts, just keep following up with them. It doesn't sound like too fun or too enjoyable, but, making those phone calls is one of the best ways, to, build that relationship and to actually get people in the door at your events, in seats, or trying to help out. But knowing that there are some people who might actually prefer text messaging, they might prefer Facebook Messenger, they might prefer email. I mean, I have several activists where when it's time to do a phone bank, they're not going to pick up my phone call. They're good, but if I Facebook message them, they'll shoot it right back to me. So knowing how certain people operate is definitely key when you're trying to do some recruiting. But if you want to build your group, you got to be excited about it. You have to be able to get involved yourself. You just can't wait for other people to do it. You have to jump in and do it yourself. And when you're excited about something and you're working hard and people see that excitement in you, they'll get excited. And excitement's contagious. It draws people in. And so the harder you work, the more excited you are, and the better attitude that you have. The better and the more success that you'll have, with your group. So I want to encourage you to, reach out to your friends. Don't be afraid to make the ask, because not asking at all is a no. I mean, you can't, if you ask, what's the worst thing they can say? It's no. But if you never ask, it's an automatic no. So, don't be afraid to make those asks. Follow up with people. Do that, and encourage people. They might not have ever made a phone call or knocked a door in their life, but take the time to educate them, explain the situations, be patient with them, show them how to do it, show them yourself by actually doing it in front of them, and then be patient, work with them. During the campaign, there was a guy who he just came in, he just wanted to talk politics. He just wanted to shoot the breeze and BS a little with us. And so we did. We sipped coffee. I bought him donuts. I knew he liked coffee, so I made sure I had it ready for him when he came in. Had the donuts from Casey's sitting there on the counter. And then we worked with him a little bit, and then he started delivering signs to people's houses. And then shortly after that, he was taking absentee ballots. Then he was going to get absentee ballot request forms. And so then all of a sudden he starts working into a position where he's doing more and more and more. And he loved coming to events with me. And then when I transitioned to AFP, he really was nervous about getting on the phones. But I took the time to explain the situation, what we were trying to accomplish. I showed him how to do it, and boom, he hopped on the phones and worked on the phones for the entire day. So just trying to be patient with those people who might not look like the best phone caller or door knocker, but if you're patient and you work with them, you can build that relationship. And sometimes they stop coming for the issues or the group, but they'll keep coming because of you. You've built that relationship with them, and they'll keep coming back because of you, not just because of the issue. So, and that was Dave. He's one of my best volunteers now. I really like him. But I took the time to work with him and be patient and just become a friend. And so that's what I want to encourage you guys to do. And it's all about relationships. And so the more people you know, the more impact you can have. So I want to encourage you guys, to get active. Don't be afraid to make those asks. And I'm just going to put in a shameless plug myself. But this Tuesday, here in the Iowa Union, we're going to be having a phone bank, and we're going to be calling people in Polk County, and we're going to try to lower the taxes. They're trying to raise the sales tax in Polk County, and last year they turned it down because the people didn't want it. The people actually showed up to the polls, and they secretly put it on the ballot. The city council did, and they want to spend this money that they're going to receive on like a zip line, an extra trail. But old Betty Jo, who's 80 years old, living at home, she's not going to be able to enjoy that zip line. So there's people out there who don't want their sales tax raised, and this is also an issue where this affects people on the left and the right. And we've been able to work with people from both sides on this one issue, and it's been great to see because it's not just that polarized politics that you see on Fox News or CNN. So we would encourage you to come to our phone bank on Tuesday. I'm going to be passing around a clipboard in a little bit. I encourage you to sign up. We're going to have pizza there. We're going to provide drinks. We're going to have a great time, and you can see the difference that you'll make in about a week on March 5th. When the people vote no on this sales tax issue in Polk County. So thank you guys so much for having me, and good luck with your guys' group. Thank you.
All right, guys, well, now we have Anders Torgerson. He's in the blue shirt over here. He's our vice president, and, well, that's wrong. That used to be
Yeah, vice president sounds a lot better.
He's our vice president recruitment director, so he's not outreach.
Yeah, you can
yeah, go for it,
real quick. All right, guys, so hello. Like the wonderful introduction I received, I'm Anders Torgerson, and I'm here to talk to you guys about a lot of the recruitment and a lot of the recruitment tactics and how we specifically, get people out, get people to be doing things. So, and I know you were talking about this earlier, there are several things that we want to highlight about YAL just to make some very, very, very clear distinctions. Obviously, we're not a book club. We're not something like that. We are action-oriented. We focus on getting people politically active and politically motivated, and promote liberty, like-minded, ideological beliefs and stuff like that. We are non-party specific. We are not Democrat. We are not Republican. We are not independent. We mainly focus. There are specific candidates that we feel, or that a lot of our supporters feel is a good fit for liberty, like-minded issues, but we are not partisan by any stretch of the imagination. And also, we do not directly endorse these candidates. We can see that there are certain candidates who promote liberty, like-minded ideological beliefs, and then that is a good thing, but we do not directly, as an organization, specifically decide to endorse those individuals and those candidates as they see fit. Next slide, please. Okay, so, another really important thing is when we are in communication with regional directors, national, everything like that, it is very important to constantly be in very tight-knit conversation and to be able to make sure that you are responding to those individuals within a specific time frame. And that's because, these state chairs, regional directors, they have a lot of stuff going on. They're contacting a lot of people all the time. So it's really important to, if you contact them or they contact you, just make sure that you're within, you're actually communicating with those people. And then also, we hold weekly meetings. I'm sure a lot of you guys have been to them. You've been to all of our meetings, And we also have, our activism events, our recruitment things. You want to have those at least a couple times a month, specifically at least 2 or more, just because you want to make sure that your message is still getting out there. You don't want to be dry and not be involved in what you know that you need to be, or else people are gonna not remember who you are. I mean, obviously the amount of people we got with our free speech ball, we're doing it enough, and we do our other activism events, but if you don't do that for a while, people will forget, and they'll be like, oh, what happened to those people that used to be on the Pentacrest with that giant ball? That was really interesting. I was intrigued by that. And if you stop for a while, those people, those possible people that you could get to come to a meeting, they're gone. So it's really important to stay active with your recruitment things on campus. And then these are just specifically some of the tactics that you like to use while either tabling or doing a recruitment directing, or whenever you are doing activism recruitment. one of the big things is don't be passive, especially with tabling. You want to stand in front of the table, you know, get to talk to somebody like how are you doing? How do you feel about this issue or that issue? Because if you're passive, people aren't going to want to come and talk to you. You have to be not aggressive, but passionate. And be passionate and willing to want to talk to that individual. Also, start your discussion with a question. Hey, how do you feel about lowering the drinking age? How do you feel about free speech? How do you feel about ending the war on drugs? Because when you start with a question, you're not even cruxing the conversation with like, oh, we believe this, how do you believe? Asking a question because they may agree with you, they may disagree with you, then you can have a conversation. And you can ask them, oh, why do you believe what you believe? Oh, have you ever thought about this perspective? Oh, have you ever thought about that perspective? Because when you do that, people are much more open to having a conversation with you and actually hearing what you're saying. And then that's how you get people to, you know, maybe find some common ground, maybe get somebody to do a meeting, maybe get somebody to agree with what you believe much more than you initially thought. And then from that, you know, you're in the door, you're like, oh, you believe that? That's really interesting. Hey, we have a meeting on Wednesday nights in Journalism Building. Can you make it? Like, do you want to come? Do you want to, you know, have a conversation with some people who may think like you? Or maybe don't, but you may agree with them on several different issues. And that's how you get people in. That's how you get people to be a part of this amazing movement and this amazing chapter here at Iowa. Just some more, you know, fundamental stuff. Obviously, like I was saying earlier, you don't want to be passive. You don't want to just sit there like you don't care, just hoping that someone will come talk to you. Don't even bring chairs. You want to be, you have your table, right? You want to be out there. You want to be communicating with people. You want to be direct. You want to be passionate. You want to be aggressive, but not annoyingly aggressive, if you know what I'm saying. Like, no one wants to feel like they're being attacked, but people do appreciate when you're being pungent and to the point. Also, and I kind of briefly discussed this earlier a little bit, but not directly, never argue. It's the worst thing you could possibly do in any of these situations, because right there you've lost and then you just look like a terrible human being. Like, it's not worth it. And obviously if you're arguing, it's just not like, okay, like you're gonna have a conversation, argue with somebody, and then they're gonna come to a meeting. No. Don't argue, don't be malicious, don't do anything like that. That's why you wanna be aggressive yet passive. You wanna ask questions, but then also plug in like what you believe. Also, yeah, this has been a really big thing too. Never let any form of bureaucratic whatever define and tell you like when and where you can take. I mean, obviously to a certain extent, yes, but don't let people tell you what activism you can do, where you can do it, why can you do it, anything like that. We've been having a lot of issues, and I know a lot of you are aware of this. We've been having a lot of those issues here on campus. There are certain places where we can have a free speech ball, and certain places where we can't. No, that's not okay. It's my freedom of speech. I have the right to be able to do that wherever I want. Don't let somebody define and tell you where you can be and what you can do. Obviously, I'm not saying break the law, but I'm just saying like there's a point, and don't let a bureaucrat tell you when and where you can do that. Obviously, like I was saying earlier, you want to be engaged. You can't be passive. You can't be like, oh, let's just wait and maybe someone will find us on student org and then we'll get a few new members. No, you need to be out there. You need to be doing your outreach. You need to be doing your activism. Because then, first of all, people are much more inclined to join your organization if you're like, oh wow, like those people like genuinely care about like what they're saying. Like, I want to be a part of that. Stay engaged with students, and honestly, the more people you talk to, the more you really realize how much we all really have in common and how much a lot of people agree with a lot of the stuff we're saying. And we can really, really, really see that with our free speech ball and lowering the drinking age and a lot of stuff like that. Also, don't forget, you know, the school spends thousands of dollars on campus every single year. So take advantage of that. Like, take advantage of what the university may be doing by like a concert or a, I don't know, even like a film screening. Take advantage of a lot of those student and university run events, because those are great places in order to, you know, get a little plug in, stuff like that. There's a lot of people there. Focusing on stuff like that, it can be really important and really beneficial in order to have the organization grow. Like I was saying earlier, There is a big difference between being passive and active. Active, obviously, is what you want to be. Passive is, anything that doesn't directly engage an individual person, just standing there, like, oh, do you support free speech? Like, you're being passive. No one's gonna care. No one really cares what you have to say even, because you don't even believe what you're truly saying. When you're being active, you are directly getting involved with the individual. You are talking to them, asking them questions. Oh, how do you feel about X, Y, and Z? Have you ever thought about this? Whatever. Having that conversation like I was talking about earlier. That is the type of activism that you want to display when you are doing activism, because that's how you get people sucked in. That's how you get people excited and involved in the movement that we want to be having here on campus and nationally as well. This is just more kind of stuff I was talking about earlier. Obviously, when we're doing activism, you want to always have your clipboard, get people signed in, get people ready, get their phone numbers, because that's obviously how you got to get, you remind people, we have meetings, whatever. Also, and this is great for us, because we have this now, having a poster looks a lot more professional. And it also directly shows oh, instead of oh, what are those 4 kids doing around that table? It says Young Americans for Liberty right there. You have the name associated with those people and what they're talking about and what their message is. Stuff like that, it's really good. It grabs people's attention. It also makes you much more approachable, and it really kind of just shows the professionalism of what you're trying to display. And then also, this kind of goes into some other stuff I was saying earlier. You definitely don't want to have your table or your activism event be unapproachable, because then no one's going to come. Obviously, no one's going to come talk to you. So don't have it be a fort. Don't just hone in and have it almost seem unapproachable. You want it to be like a base where everyone's welcome. Come in, talk, information, everything like that. But don't have it be like a fortress and have it be unapproachable, everything like that. Because like I was saying earlier, you're not going to get anybody. And this is a lot of stuff I was talking about earlier. Obviously, you want to be mobile. You want to be approachable. You want to be able to go up to somebody and talk to them. Obviously, because if you are unapproachable, first of all, you're going to turn a lot of people off from wanting to come and talk to you, obviously. But then also, the whole point of your activism has been destroyed, because obviously your activism event is meant to go and get people. And if you're unapproachable and if you're too aggressive or anything like that, you're not going to be able to get those people that very well and possibly could have been wanting to be involved in the organization. And also, you can do that by, obviously, I think the big thing for a lot of people with their activism is that first question, right? Like, it's very awkward to randomly approach somebody and spark up a conversation about bringing the troops home from overseas or anything like that. So there's a lot of really great one-line phrases that you can kind of use in order to at least start that conversation, get your foot in the door. Like, how do you feel about liberty? Like, how do you feel about freedom? Like, how do you feel about the government? Stuff like that can be, while it may seem very minuscule, everyone typically has an opinion on that. And it takes less weight, it takes weight off your shoulders with the awkwardness of starting that conversation, and also it perfectly segues into the motives and the mission a lot of what YAL represents. So just keeping some of that in mind, especially when you are doing activism and stuff like that. And then, yeah, a lot of this is, so specifically when you get somebody in the door, you've sparked a conversation, they seem interested, they seem like they want to be involved, then, you get them in the clipboard, you get all their information. Specifically, and this is very important, you have to get their phone number. A lot of times people will give you your email, whatever, no one checks their emails. At least in our generation, no one cares about their emails. Seriously. Having their phone number, what that does is it allows direct access and direct communication to them, and something that everyone in this generation has on them at all times. And if they don't, they have a panic attack. Seriously, I've seen it. It's crazy. Now, what that does is it allows us to directly communicate and make sure, like, hey, we're having the activism on Monday, can you make it? Oh, we're having our meeting on Wednesday, can you make it? And sometimes you literally need to almost do it for them. Because a lot of people don't want to relinquish their phone number, right? Like, I don't, most of the time. So when you're direct and you're like, oh, can I, can I have your phone number? And they're like, no, and I'm like, no, seriously, just fill it out real quick. You be pushy, but don't be aggressive. Like I was saying, it's the active versus passive. You need to get that phone number. And then this is kind of like the excerpt that we've been using typically in general. You know, just like, hi, Daniel, for example, like, we're Young Americans for Liberty, whatever, we're meeting in this room, whatever, can you make it? Always start with their name in the event, because then they know it's for them, and they know specifically what you're talking about. Then you also want to highlight the organization, so they can put all these pieces together, and then ask, and then end it with a question. If they say yes, obviously follow up, do some communication, make sure they can make it, like, oh great, see you tonight, like whatever. And then obviously building that list of contacts is very important, because then that allows the communication to flow much more easily. Like, oh, there was, let's say hypothetically, Dan, like, oh, Dan was able to make it to the meeting, I hope he can make it to the next meeting. Just having that contact in there, just being able to shoot a text, helps grow numbers, and it helps also retain longevity for a lot of members. Why recruit? What's the point? Why would you spend your time doing these activism events in order to recruit people? Because recruitment is obviously the fundamental essence of a lot of what YAL is doing, especially on college campuses. Because liberty and the idea of liberty lives and dies with the ability for your campus and your organization to be ordered to remain strong and have numbers and stuff like that. And we philosophically owe it to ourselves, to the nation, and just to everyone in general to be ordered to spread those beliefs and create that longevity and those beliefs instilled in the student body and in the body of the population as an entity in general.
All right, well, awesome job, Anders. Let's give him a round of
God
applause.
bless.
That was good. That's really good. So I think next we'll bring up Josh to introduce Dr. Christopher Peters.
I'll keep this
Well-
short and sweet too. Dr. Peters is a man that I definitely respect a lot, and he's a very straightforward, no BS politician. So look forward to hearing from him.
So I'm gonna bring a lot of BS up.
Wow, naturally.
Go for it.
Thanks. So, yeah, says Liberty expert on the whole thing. I think I'm the only thing I'm expert now in are two things, well, maybe three: family guy, surgeon, and losing elections. So I'm really good at that. Everybody here is, I presume, Liberty, right? Well, I'm so envious because you got this at such a young age. Now, in my defense, the Libertarian Party didn't even form until I was 11 years old, so nobody really, it was never on the radar. You know, I kind of grew up, and all you had was Republicans and Democrats, right? I happened to be in a Republican household. That's what I kind of grew up with. It wasn't until, and Jeff remembers this, it wasn't until 2008 when Ron Paul came on the scene. He came, I didn't really even know who he was until after the Iowa caucus, but after that I got really engaged with that. I went out to a Campaign for Liberty event that he had, the precursor of YAL. Was out in Pennsylvania, met Ron Paul, Judge Napolitano, Bob Murphy, Tom Woods, a whole host of other people. It was just really a fantastic event. Got really excited about Liberty. Met Jeff here at the Campaign for Liberty, the group here on campus at that time. Got involved, ran as a Libertarian candidate for Iowa State Senate in 2010. There was no Republican in the race. I lost. Number one loss. Then I ran for U.S. House both in 16 and 18 against Dave Loebsack. We did respectably well in 16, really lost pretty bad in 18, but I still think we advanced things. I don't have any regrets. I feel like we did the message we could. We worked within the boundaries of running as a Republican, a Liberty Republican, and I feel very, very good with that. At this point, I'm back to being a doc again, being a husband and a dad, and now a grandfather as well to a five-month-old grandson. And I've taken on a new thing. I got to keep the political itch scratched, so I've accepted the volunteer position of state coordinator for a group called Better Angels. I would really challenge you guys to campus here to do this. The students down at Graceland University have started a group there, and they really were kind of the most involved in the state, other than the group out of Fairfield, actually. in really trying to foster dialogue between reds and blues. So it's not expressly political at all. It's just, and they're not trying to change minds per se. It's just let's get talking again. Because ultimately, our government is supposed to be, our country, our people, we're supposed to be self-governing, right? How can we govern ourselves when we can't even talk to one another? So I'm really excited about this Better Angels. It's a national organization. We're trying to grow it huge in Iowa. And they work by doing skill workshops where you learn how to dialogue with other folks, understand your own positions really well, and have red-blue workshops where they get like 6 or 7 people, reds and blues, and spend a half day or a full day just talking, learning that the other side isn't the enemy, that you can find common ground, and that's really crucial. So it's the foundation of liberty, in my opinion, is reestablishing that dialogue. So if you're interested in being a part of Better Angels, if you'd like to see us do, if YAL or somebody here would like to help head up and doing some workshops here on campus, I'd be thrilled to be involved with that for down the line, anytime you guys want to do that. I want to talk about 2 things in particular. Some of this has already been touched on. One is persuasion. So everybody hears liberty, which means that you probably read people like Hayek and Friedman and Mills and blah, 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 right? You're generally going to be the smartest person in any conversation. Do you ever persuade based on logic? No. Never. Do you ever persuade on social media? Well, Andrew maybe does sometimes, because he's diligent. But basically never. You persuade by being likable, by being knowable. If they get to know who you are, if they get to know who Jeff is, and they say, I like that guy as a person, I've seen his stand-up act, for example. And then you start having a conversation, and it may not be expressly political. I mean, YAL stuff, you're all talking about membership, I get that, but doing liberty is a 24/7 kind of thing, but it isn't always expressly political. You never know when your end might be. When you're out with some friends and something comes up, and you mention a different little thing that gets the little wheels, whirring a little bit. So persuasion, you never know when it's going to come, but you've got to have that personal connection first. You're not going to argue to success. I have 2 pieces of reading advice you might consider. One is a book called The 3 Languages of Politics, written by libertarian economist Arnold Kling. He argues that we have 3 basic political philosophies right now in the world, in the US: conservatism, libertarianism, and progressivism, and I think he's right. And that each of those people, each of those groups of people, view the world through a certain lens, and they talk in a different language. And so literally, if you're talking to, say, a progressive on a given issue, they'll be talking back to you in some way, in a language it's like French and German, and you don't know either, right? So it's a really great book to both codify how you're thinking about things and to communicate. So 3 Languages of Politics, Arnold Kling. The second one, I can't remember the author's name, but the book title is called Thank You for Arguing. It's a great book. It's on rhetoric. It's on persuasion. Getting a nod there. You like that one too? I read it twice. It's great. I don't pretend to be really good at this particular art, because again, I've lost 3 times. But it's a great book for learning how to connect. And it goes back to stuff like Rob Peterson and Anders talked about, is you got to make that personal connection first. So Persuasion, 2 books if you want to think about doing something. Secondly, perspective. You guys are very young getting involved with the Liberty Movement. I was much older, obviously, because I'm really old now. And this is a lifetime of stuff that you can be doing. But don't forget all the other important things. You may be a legislator, but you may go on and get your degree in whatever. You may work, hopefully you do. You'll have a family, all that kind of stuff, friends. Politics can be very consuming. Believe me, I know. Right, Jeff, you know. You gotta make sure you have a healthy perspective on it. It's important to do, but don't neglect your friends, your family, your whatever you want to study, your hobbies. Don't be that guy who is just, or gal, I'm sorry, that is just politics all the time. Because anybody that's just all that thing all the time, aren't they just so annoying? They're just one-dimensional characters, and you're like, I don't really want to talk to him because all he's going to do is talk to me about something political. You know, don't neglect yourself, don't neglect your own needs, and what your future is going to be down the line. So this is a long game, right? This is something that, and it's great that you're doing it on campuses. It's great that you're focusing on state legislative races. It's a long game. I think YAL's got a great plan, kind of stretching out over a decade or more. This is how we win. It's not going to be one big election. It's going to be gradual movement, and I think we're going to do it. I think it's going to be great. Again, Better Angels, the group I'm involved with now. I am not running in 2020, no way in hell. My wife said she would divorce me if I did. No, she didn't actually say that. But she did ask when we went to the tax guy the other day, said, should we be filing married separately? And the guy said, sometimes that's worthwhile, but usually people are only doing that if they're getting divorced. So I've been questioning my wife lately, but no, we're all good. So Better Angels is great. That's my focus right now. I may or may not run in 2022. We'll see. Depends on what the wife says. My blog, newsletter thing, my website is drpeters.org. Doctor all spelled out, drpeters.org. I have some business cards if you want to have some. You want to sign up for my newsletter, contribute. Let me know what you think. I'd be happy to hear your thoughts and happy to help you in whatever you're doing, anything I can do. All right? Thanks so much.
All right, Jason. There was no transition, so I'm just
Yeah.
doing that.
How's it going?
Good. How are you guys doing? Everybody still alive? We're still awake? Some pretty exciting stuff. I like YAL. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I want to pitch you real quick on why you should join YAL, in case this hasn't been clear. For me, my story, you heard Shannon earlier, this has been a great networking opportunity. This has been a good way to challenge myself with people of a high quality and caliber who are ambitious and want to do real things. So talking about this free speech stuff, we'd like you to offer some feedback while we do this to see where you guys are at and see what we can do to help service you guys. So as far as the slides, we have Fight for Free Speech. I've worked with other student chapters on free speech. We've won $1 million lawsuit against our administration through these techniques. This is very real change you can do. Freedom of expression is key to our success. Restoring rights to students, getting tangible liberty results, okay? So we're not here to just get in the media. We're not here just to get attention. We are here to make active change in things you care about. So YAL, if you look at in 2009, there was a pledge. There's a look on YouTube, go to the Young Americans for Liberty pledge. Our founder, Jeff Frazee, he said in there that the whole point of this is to form your own opinion. So we want to empower students to use their free speech for things they care about in their community. This is not a top-down organization. So when let's say you have friends in another college and they're really upset about something the administration is doing, get them to start a YAL chapter. They can use our resources to do what they want to do, and we're just here to assist. And so that's kind of what my point on this was going to be. So for the Fight for Free Speech, we want you to record enforcement on constitutional codes. Okay, the short and sweet little speech here is about how to get proof that your constitutional rights are being violated. So 3 questions we want you to ask. What specific policy are we breaking? Let's say you're tabling, you're talking about something controversial. What's controversial today?
Everything.
The wall.
Everything.
The wall.
Smollett.
Okay. So the wall's controversial. You get somebody come up, and we actually had a YAL chapter that had an event where they had a YAL member talk about the wall and a YAL member talk against the wall at the same table. Okay.
That was
That's how
2 days ago.
Yeah, 2 days ago. So, yeah, that's a controversial. Say somebody comes up and they want to pick at you, or like just happened the other day, they want to punch you in the face. Happened at UC Berkeley. One of our students, tabling, got wrecked in the face, okay, by an angry leftist who has no intellect, okay? So, they send the administrators after you to use the violence of the state to kick you off campus. Well, we just want you to ask these 3 questions, okay? We want you to record it. Turn your phone, turn it on sideways so we can get as big of a picture as possible. What specific policy are we breaking? Let them answer. They'll either say, we don't know, we don't like you, or here's the specific policy. Then ask, well, what are the consequences? Well, how is this phrased here? Yeah, what are the stated consequences of breaking this policy? Are you going to break my arm? Are you going to kick me off campus? Are you going to light my car on fire? All of these are in the realm of the socialist dialogue. If we continue to break this policy, will there be consequences enforced against us? That's it, okay? Just get it on record, get them to state it, do not argue. Do not tell them you have the right to be here. Get out of there, come back to us, we have lawyers. And at Iowa State, I was personally involved in a $1 million lawsuit. Our former chapter president got a $75,000 paycheck for that lawsuit. His other president, a $75,000 paycheck for that policy. 4 years of college, I mean, that's not like obviously gonna happen, but this technique got them paid and made a difference.
Oh, let's watch the video.
Oh,
Yeah.
my bad.
This video doesn't have the right questions on it, but, you know.
Do we have permission from the city services to be here?
Well, yes, sir, we do. It's actually, well, not through them, it's actually through the Constitution. It's the First Amendment.
You can do it, right? Yes, we have free speech area.
Yes, sir.
Right?
So do the free speech zones actually trump the Constitution? Actually saying that we have to,
That's
even though it's a trump issue?
That's a lie, by the way.
Only there. Okay.
Okay, so these guys can lie to you. Okay, that was short and sweet. Does anybody have any questions, anything that I may have missed? Is that pretty clear?
Has that gotten worse over the years?
It's gotten way worse.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just wondered.
2013, we had a T-shirt with the marijuana leaf on it. It's controversial. It made national news at Iowa State. That's what the lawsuit came about, right? Now they're not even shutting us down based on what we're talking about. They're shutting us down based on identity politics. Okay, so Eleanor Roosevelt said, dumb people talk about people, somewhat smart people talk about identity. Or there's three different tiers, and I'm messing it up massively right now. But the highest form of discussion on a college campus is ideas. And these guys, only idea they have is to shut us down through any means necessary. They will lie about you. They'll slang. There's a whole bunch of stuff we can talk about afterwards at the social. But I want to give the floor to Jeff. Does anybody have something? That's a great question, by the way. Anybody else have any questions about it? Okay, guys, this is Jeff Shipley, our greatest success in Young Americans for Living. Please give him a round of applause, and thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Iowa Representative Jeff Shipley, proudly serving District 82 from Fairfield, Iowa. I do want to kind of tell you my story of how I came to be. It was a long story, stretching over 10 years of activism. But I want to know, we got about a dozen people taking time out of their Saturday to sit indoors and talk about these things. What are you guys interested? What brings you here today? That's what I want to know. Why are you here?
I just hate government.
Hates the government. Great answer. Anyone else? Why are you here?
No offense.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Curiosity.
Okay, didn't know. Anyone else know? Does anyone know why they're here? Yes, sir.
We have a future.
So you have a future. Okay. Any other answers? Anyone else want to entertain this question? Why you're taking time out of your Saturday to sit? Jason?
So I can practice my religion.
Practice his religion. Any other answers?
Meet you.
Be me.
Meet you.
Meet me. Oh, that's very flattering. Thank you. Great. Well, so like I said, I'm in the Iowa House of Representatives. State of Iowa pays me $25,000 a year plus a generous per diem to write the laws. So I'm one voice out of 100, and we're having fun. Definitely making waves. I don't know. Does anyone even follow the news? Does anyone know what's going on in Iowa politics? Can you?
I don't really trust them.
Can you name who your state representative is? You live in Iowa City?
Well, I'm from Illinois, but
Okay. Do you know who your Illinois representative is?
it's like, yeah, I forget.
Okay. Does anyone know who serves them in the Iowa House?
Yeah, Ann Osmondson.
Oh, fantastic. So you're up in Northeast Iowa then. Great. Did you born and raised there? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my
Do you know
family was
Ann?
there for like 160 years. Yeah, I helped run her campaign.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Ann is a wonderful addition to the Iowa House. I appreciate Ann very much.
He's not like, wasn't Steve King like one of the representatives?
I think I don't know if he's ever served in the House or not, but I know
No,
like.
he's an interesting guy.
Yeah, he's on the western part of the state. He's doing his thing. Can anyone? Okay, so we have one person who can you name your?
It's either Vicky Lensing or Mary Masher, and I forget which one because they're both.
All right, and do you know who the senator's name is?
It's Volcom, isn't it?
All right, good.
Jacoby.
Yeah, Jacoby and
Exactly.
Coralville. All right, but I guess just demonstrate that most people are so far removed from the politics that they have no idea who even represents them. How can they represent you if you don't even know who they are? So it's very interesting. And that's kind of what I kind of tell myself is, you know, I'm making a lot of waves, stirring some pots. I'm doing my best to piss off everybody except the Farm Bureau. And nobody really cares. Nobody really cares about politics. They care about their own lives. You know, they care about making sure they're doing a good job at work and working towards their career. They want to make sure that they have Christmas presents under the tree for their kids come December. You know, they want to make sure that they're hopefully giving a better life for themselves or the children next generation. People are interested in themselves. I guess just my story. So I attended University of Iowa from 2006 to 2010. I graduated with a Bachelor's of Arts or BA in Political Science. I didn't even know what the term political science meant until after I graduated. Started Young Americans for Liberty here on campus after the Ron Paul campaign. Also, at that time, we had an Austrian economics class at the Econ department. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Austrian economics, but it was a good class. And I don't think it's offered anymore, but we had some successful activism. Didn't really have a lot of the tools that exist today. We were pretty much making it up as we go along. And we made a lot of the mistakes. You know, we would sit behind the table. We weren't being proactive. We would maybe get some data, but we wouldn't manage it well. So we would have all this gold, but we'd just let it sit and collect dust because we weren't willing to do the work of calling people, texting people, following up, making sure that we were being proactive and bringing people in and growing the movement. So we made a lot of mistakes. And that's, I think, in your position right now, being fortunate to have some additional professional guidance, people who've come before that can, hopefully you can avoid those mistakes and make the most of this opportunity. So I graduated in 2010. The first Young Americans for Liberty kind of knock the door thing was in Kentucky. I went out to Louisville in 2010 to knock doors in Kentucky for Senator Rand Paul during his primary campaign there. That was fun, made a lot of great friends, and from there kind of became the professionalization of the political movement, which is what we need is professionals. You know, when you look at the special interest groups, they all have full-time people, some of them making six figures, who are working full-time to make sure that the special interests get heard. I'll tell you what, the special interest, they know who their representatives are. They meet with them. And they do affect voters. They do get involved in elections. So if they're working like that, we need to match that and more. Because it's basically, you know, politics is not playing patty cake. We're going to have, thankfully, we have a beautiful political system that avoids violence mostly. We're making these decisions. But, you know, elections do have consequences, and if you're just sitting on your hands while the election happens, don't be surprised when you're totally ignored when the politics and the policies are being made. And my favorite thing to do as a representative is to totally ignore people. People who are outside of my district, I don't care about them. People who I know are going to be haters and there's nothing I'm going to do, you know, their opinion means nothing to me. Absolutely nothing. But if you give me $100 on my campaign, if I know you're a constituent, I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to answer your call. I'll probably introduce a bill for you. I'll do whatever it takes. For the people who did elect me, the local constituency, I don't know if anyone knows what a smart meter is, but for those people down in Fairfield, I'm going to work my ass off for them because they're the ones who brought me in Des Moines, and they're the people I care most about. So then, yeah, 2009, I ran for city council here in Iowa City. Got my ass kicked. Wasn't pleasant, but at least gave me a real big taste of humiliation to realize kind of how the system works. I was involved in student government here on campus. I was the student government city council liaison. So I don't know if anyone's interested in student government here on campus. It's, you know, kind of it's one of those things that's like kind of a waste of time, but could be a potential learning experience. It's just interesting because again, it's like the people on campus. There's people who I served with in student government that are now at the Capitol today. You know, the student government president at UI, when I served with him, he's working for the Department of Agriculture now. Another student government senator, she's the judiciary lobbyist. So it's, you know, those things do kind of matter, and you do kind of chart your course on campus. So because I was a leader on campus when I attended University of Iowa, fast forward 10 years, it kind of makes sense that I'm in the Iowa House now. It's just the trajectory. You know, you can kind of tell where you end up in life by basically look at your life on a daily basis, see what you do every day, and if you flesh that out over time, that's where you're going to be a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. Are there any Jordan Peterson fans in the audience? A couple? All right, yeah. Yeah, just do whatever that guy says. We should all be taking him a lot more seriously. And it certainly helped me out from, again, those kind of, you know, to be rock solid where you're going to stand up against the special interests, where you have you know, a big group of people telling you to raise taxes, or everyone else is raising taxes, and to be just so solid in your conviction to say no, you know, I can do that because I know who I am as a person, because, you know, I do have good habits that keep me grounded. Not everyone has that. So, you know, there are those types of, you know, Jordan Peterson, just saying, it makes a big difference. And if you do the self-authoring program and some of the other things that Jordan Peterson recommends, you'll probably see the same fantastic results. So I ran for office in 2009, lost, but again, just being involved as a student liaison to the city council gave me kind of the experience of sitting at the table, so to speak, to kind of see how the discussions happen, to see how these meetings are run, and get kind of exposed to the, you know, political orthodoxy, so to speak, or at least the powers that be, the system. So I was involved in politics, worked for the Right to Work Committee, went out to Campaign for Liberty, worked in Virginia for a few months, but I was young and immature, so that stuff really worked out, made a lot of big mistakes, smoked way too much pot, still praying for forgiveness for those sins, and came back to Iowa, had a lot of fun with the Ron Paul presidential campaign in 2011, did the caucus to convention process, became a state central committee member on the party, which the party politics is, I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but we had fun. We were able to take over the chairmanship, and that comes with certain symbolic powers where you are able to hire staff and influence policies on some level. We got thrown out of office after our terms. I ran for Iowa House in 2014 when I was 26. Again, kind of lacked some of the maturity and, again, just knowledge of myself to actually do a good job. So I'm really thankful that at that time the voters did say no to me, because to really do the job well, I mean, when we see how tangled up government is, when we see how just confused and disoriented the public is, like, it's really going to take that highest level of leadership to massage that and bring us towards the outcome we want, or peace of self-government. So it really, you know, it does take a man like Ron Paul, who is just so solid and has that. I don't know if anyone's ever met Ron Paul, but you know, he's the type of guy, he practices what he preaches. He's just a great person. He believes in himself, and he's what you would expect a good human being to be. So again, just aspiring to that level, I mean, that's what it's going to take. You know, guys like Thomas Massey, who does have an off-the-grid home, who has a tremendous professional career, who is a family man. You know, it really takes that higher level of leadership if we're going to get anywhere. You know, there's plenty of libertarians just want to beat their chest but can't practice what they preach, who are hypocrites, who aren't able to embody that. And so when I ran for office in 26, I was more on that end of things, and so it's good that I lost, because had I won, I wouldn't have been of service to the cause at large, or at least not to the extent of what we need. So I was really happy I lost that election, and in retrospect, it makes perfect sense why I lost, because, again, going back to what Dr. Peters says is, you know, the politics don't really matter so much. The issues don't really matter so much. It's who they view you as a person. It's knowing that your heart is in the right place, that you believe that you're doing the right thing, that you really care. You know, I have my friend Lisa. She's a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat, solid blue, hates guns, hates Trump, but she donated $25 to me and voted for me because she knows that for the constituents, where there's the alternative healthcare people, the smart meter people, the actual people in Fairfield that I'm serving, she knows I'm going to do a good job for them. So she's able to put all the national politics and the partisanship aside and vote for all the Democrats, but vote for me as well when it came to it. And so, I mean, it really is that personal level just makes so much of a difference, and being someone to be around. So the person, I sit on my left in the chamber sits Representative Jennery. He's a dentist from Lamar. It's just a typical kind of Ted Cruz, Rick Santorum conservative. We don't agree on much, but he really enjoys sitting next to me because I am personable, I am entertaining, I do things that are interesting, and I'm good to talk to. So he likes me. On my right is Representative Scott Orth. He's a Democrat. He's a little bit more cautious with me because of something that happened 9 years ago, where I kind of made a fool out of myself. So, like, the long memories matter. For instance, there was an event where Gary Johnson came to campus on 2010. I drank a lot of beer, went to the College Republicans meeting, ended up making a complete asshole out of myself. And now the College Republican president at the time is now a Republican House staffer, you know. And so she remembers me making a complete idiot of myself. How could she not? So it's like the things that you do today in these relationships, I mean, politics really is a small world. So you being an idiot today could definitely affect your political career 5-10 years down the road. That's what I'm finding out. What else? So my district, District 82, it's Jefferson County, Davis County, Van Buren County. I don't know if that means anything to you. City of Fairfield. House rep seats, roughly around 30,000 people. Maybe get anywhere from 12 to 15,000 voters. Populations have changed. We're probably going to see some big shifts in redistricting this next go around. But so we had a big special election in 2017. Special elections are interesting because it's like the one political thing going on, so all the parties just completely focus on it, and a lot of money's dumped in. And the Republican got crushed. So bad that in 2018, no Republican even wanted to run. Primary deadline passes, no one wants to run. And I come along in August. I had a really great stand-up comedy routine on August 8th. So I call Republican Party of Iowa Chairman Jeff Kaufman, another person who I made a really idiot out of myself too, but he's been more forgiving because he realizes that I do contribute something to the Republican Party. So when you are able to help people, they are more kind of forgiving of you making mistakes. And I got on the ballot. August 21st, I was nominated by convention, and it was 2 days before the deadline. So in a district, it slightly leans Democrat, but where a Democrat really just had a landslide win just the year before, couldn't find any other Republican, I decided to stick my hand up. Why not? One of the motivating reasons why I wanted to get involved is I knew Young Americans for Liberty was having the Win at the Door program, which could be a game changer. And so I sent an email to Justin in July. I said, hey, I'm kind of thinking about this. What do you think? He encouraged me to explore it. You know, it's very non-committal on what kind of help they could provide, but, you know, just gave me the encouragement to, hey, just put your, you know, have the courage to put your name on the ballot. Maybe we'll help you, maybe we don't, but what's the worst that can happen? And I mean, for me, I wasn't exactly where I wasn't where I needed to be professionally. I wasn't where I necessarily needed to be personally, but instead of, when I was trying to write my stand-up comedy routines, instead of writing jokes in my head, all I could think about was how I would articulate a controversial issue, but articulate it in a way that would bring people together, or at least that people would see where I was coming from. And the Better Angels training that Dr. Peters mentioned, that was something I went through in June and July of that year that did kind of give me, you know, some hope of, okay, maybe this is possible. And then I had the really outstanding comedy set, and this one guy gave me he never ended up voting for me, but he gave me a compliment that night that gave me the courage to put my name on the ballot. And then we won. We won by, well, it was 34 votes on election night. They did a recount. We ended up, the final margin was 37. It was one of the biggest upsets on election night. And yeah, we were the only candidate to upset a Democrat incumbent on election night. And that gets noticed statewide. And it's still in the legislature. The politicians notice that sort of thing. You guys don't notice. You don't even know who the politicians are. But the people who are in the political class, they notice the sort of thing. That's when the Democrats spend $250,000 to get someone in there the year before, and then I just put my hand up 2 days before the filing deadline and knock him out on election night, that gets noticed and respected. Because that's the thing, is that's what it takes. If people know that you'll be able to replace them, if Vicki Lensing thought that you would affect her politically, then she would pay a lot more respect to you. She would pay a lot more attention to you if she knew that you were a political threat, so to speak. So I'm in the Iowa House now, having a lot of fun. You guys aren't paying attention, so you guys probably don't know what the issues are, but that's fine. I'm doing a good job. Just take my word for it. And yeah, I don't know. I kind of just rambled on for a while. I didn't really know what I was talking about, but just wanted to give you the long kind of picture that the trajectory matters, and the things you do today, the habits you develop, the skill sets, and then mostly just the professionalization, because these guys are working full time against us. And so we need, on the opposite, people who can do a phone bank, who know what it's like to, who can actually effectively communicate with other people. And just for example of what not to do, I'm going to use the Libertarian Party of Iowa. So these libertarians, the Libertarian Party of Iowa, they're concerned about one issue in the state houses here. They're concerned about libertarian ballot access. If you're a libertarian, that's really important to you, right? But if you're not a libertarian, why would you care at all? So the libertarians, they're focused on the one issue that only appeals to themselves. And all these other types of issues, which occupational licensure, tax raises and tax decreases, the drug rescheduling bills I've introduced, all those are really solid liberty issues that they could use to grow the party, to grow interest, to connect with people and build their ranks. But they're not doing that because all they're concerned about doing is preaching to their own shrinking choir. And you want to know why we lose? You want to know why government keeps growing? It's because idiots in the Libertarian Party of Iowa can't figure out that they need to talk to other people besides themselves. And all they want to do is beat on their chest about how self-righteous and great they are, rather than do the work to actually talk to people. My campaign was built on 20-minute, half an hour, hour-long conversations with people. I would ask the right questions to really just dig in. For example, and again, when you win by 37 votes, legitimately anything that can be done. Young Americans for Liberty can take credit, and anyone who voted for me can take credit, any sort of issue. But just give you an example of what I'm talking about. I had a call. There was an acquaintance. You know, we kind of knew each other. We were kind of friends, but not like super tight friends. And she was definitely more Democrat and liberal, very skeptical of me. So I work her over enough to where she agrees to talk to me on the phone. And again, most people have better things to do. So to have some politician like, oh, can I talk to you on the phone? Why would anyone want to do that? I got better things to do. I don't care. So I got her enough to get the phone call. That was step one, to get enough interest where she wants or is interested in having the conversation. The first 10 minutes of the conversation is about pro-life. I'm pro-life, she ain't. So how does she reconcile that in her mind? So we talk about the specifics. We talk about the fetal heartbeat bill. We talk about a potential local control solution. Of each county, would they be allowed to define where life begins? You know, just kind of that philosophical, how should we address the life issue? The second 10 minutes of the conversation, she's just giving me constructive criticism on what things I have done or done differently, or what she kind of heard about me as a person. So we get through that for 20 minutes. Then for the last 10 minutes of the conversation, we find an issue we agree on. Basically endocrine disrupting pollution, which is basically everywhere, how that may or may not be affecting the gender issues we're seeing in society. And that's something she's really concerned about. So because I was able to successfully navigate, well, one, getting her on the phone, one, and then two, respectively navigating a conversation where we have a disagreement that is very emotionally charged, and then two, just kind of explaining more where I'm coming from and being likable enough to overcome a lot of the negativity, finally is able to get through all of that to where we find an issue we agree on, and it is important, and that because of that, she says, all right, Jeff, you got me, I'll vote for you, I'll tell my husband to do it, come deliver a yard sign, and I'll put out a good word for you. But that's what it took. That vote might just say, oh, that was 2 or 3 or maybe 4 votes tops. But that's what it took. I had to get her interest to where she was sincerely interested in a phone call. How much easier, and most people say no. Most people are just not interested in talking. If I send out a Facebook message, and I did, when the whole Kavanaugh thing was going down, I wrote a response on what I thought about the whole Kavanaugh Supreme Court debacle and sexual assault in society. I sent that out to maybe 50 people. Maybe 5 of them got back to me. But you gotta throw out that net and see what comes out. You have to do that because every number matters. And when you have elections being decided by 10 votes, by 30 votes, by 40 votes, everything you do matters. And that's just what it takes. You gotta be able to have that conversation, get them interested enough to where they think you're worth talking to. Most people aren't worth talking to. I mean, politicians or just people, but and then be able to navigate your disagreements in a way where you can get them still interested to where you can find, okay, this is solid. I want to see you win now. And that was it too, the intensity of Operation Win the Door. I think they had 5 door knockers come out for me. 2 of them I thought were competent. The 3, I don't know if they made a difference or not, but supposedly just leaving leaflets on, name recognition, whatever. Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't. If you go and knock someone's door, you can turn them off just as easily as you can turn them on, especially if you're someone coming from out of town. People just don't like being told what to do no matter what. But a couple of the door knockers were pretty good. But yeah, you get them on, and that was kind of my thing. So when you upseat an incumbent, it wasn't like if I had a 20-minute conversation with someone about how a high school diploma means nothing these days, and about how we have this instant gratification culture that's destroying our youth, where nobody wants to work these days. Everyone wants something for free. This entitlement mindset that has taken over everybody. So now, because we've talked about all these really in-depth things, they don't just kind of want to like, oh, maybe I'll vote for him. They want to see me win. So it's like you build up that intensity. That's the whole thing about politics. It's not so much what you believe, it's how intensely do you believe it. How far out of your way are you going to act on that belief? You know, the communists, they'll go really far. They'll lock you up in camps. They'll kill you. That's how much they believe in their point of view. So you got to build that interest, and you got to have people, they want to see you win. So now instead of like, oh yeah, maybe I'll vote for him. He might be okay. So I want to see him win. I'll give him $100. I'm going to tell my neighbors. I'm going to tell my friends at work. That's what it takes. That's why nobody in the state saw our campaign even having a chance. I got $0 from the House Majority Fund. I'm probably the only candidate in history to upset a Democrat incumbent in a Democrat-leaning district with $0 from the House Majority Fund. The House Majority Fund is basically the big PAC, the Republican Party that gives money to these candidates. So that's how we did it. That's the political science. That's the political scientist. You connect with people in their heart to where they want to see you win. You align your goal. You're able to articulate some sort of positive, peaceful, prosperous vision. Like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. I want to make that happen. You're damn right, Jeff. I'll vote for you, and I'll tell my friends to do the same. I'm so happy you stopped by today because I was feeling so, just down in the dumps about politics, knowing how our country's going to complete shit. But now that you came to my doorstep, now I feel like we really got a chance. I want to see you win. Go get him. That's what it takes. Any questions?
Just have one.
What do you got?
As a representative, and you have the political science degree, do you think someone who doesn't have a political science degree or some type of law degree could still effectively do your
Yeah,
job?
so my biggest skill set was I can speak in front of people. I have a good sense of humor. People like me. I just am kind of young, handsome, charismatic. I know how to groom myself. And then as a politician, probably the biggest skill as a politician, being able to ask someone for money. If I didn't raise $20,000 for my campaign, I would have gotten nowhere. So yeah, I studied political science. I learned a lot about alcoholism. I learned a lot about college football. I didn't even know what political science meant until after I graduated. So education means nothing. It's all about what you bring personally to the table. Anyone else care about any issues affecting the legislature?
I got a question.
What do you got?
How do you tell the difference between a magic mushroom and a poisonous one?
Ask your drug dealer.
You just got to trust God, right?
Actually, there's a reagent, and I actually do have an answer for that. If you go to the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies online, you can buy a testing kit so you know your substances are safe. It used to be on Amazon. Last week they took them all off. There's an organization called Dance Safe.
Yeah, just need to say a prayer. Nobody cares.
No, seriously, because there was a girl that overdosed and almost died at 515 Alive last year in Des Moines. So that's actually a very serious.
From what? From mushrooms?
She was drugged. So she was given a substance that she thought was an illegal substance, and it was a different illegal substance. So if you're using illegal substances, it's actually very important to know about this. Do not take things from people at festivals if you do not know them and the source of where that came from. Not to go. I'm very serious about this. People die every day from not knowing what they're putting in their mouths.
This gentleman just asked me if I had a born-again experience, and that's kind of a good question, because,
No, it's just what you talked about, certainly, that's why.
well, yeah, so after when I lost in 2014, at the time I didn't realize why I needed to lose. And so I took it hard, and it was almost like it was like affecting my identity. In my mind, I was like this libertarian young kid who was going to really, help the state, and then of course the voters like, no thanks, we don't really care for you. Like that hurts, that really affects your ego, it humiliates you, and I took it tough. I ran away to Nevada for a couple months to kind of recoup, and then when I came back to my apartment in Fairfield, after that loss, I got rid of everything, because everything in my apartment reminded me of childishness, of immaturity, of losing, and I got rid of literally every piece of furniture in my house where it was just my altar, and I started rebuilding from there. So it was the humiliation losing in 2014. And then further, I got a new job selling solar as a salesperson in 2016. That was also, had a lot of humiliating experiences involved in that as well. And it was just through those failures, so to speak, that I was like, oh shit, I need to do something differently. It's not their fault, it's my fault. No wonder the voters rejected me, because I was rejectable. Yeah, there was a couple different times in my life where I really had to take a long look in the mirror and, you know, just admit that, okay, I suck, I'm the common denominator in all these problems, what can I do differently? And then we did things differently, and here we are.
And you don't suck today, so it's good.
Suck a little bit less. We're still making mistakes, but thankfully we learned. So learn from your mistakes. But just remember, no matter what happens in the world, it's your fault. And the reason why we don't have freedom is because you, and you need to, yeah. Anyway, appreciate the time. Oh, you got one?
Yeah, it's a little more personal, so it's okay if you don't want to answer this. But you talked a little bit about alcoholism and then the clarity coming. Do you live sober, or do you just drink more responsibly?
Sober-ish. I mean, I'm definitely
Specifically referring to alcohol.
Well, so now that I'm 30, like, you know, I don't know, I had beer the other night. Let's see. Oh, I had a little bit of scotch last night. But I'm not drinking to get drunk, certainly not doing that. Like, I'm not, like, I'll have fun, sure, but it's not something I really look forward to. It's something that's not important to me. Like when I was like a pothead, like I would let marijuana guide my decisions. Like I became friends with the people who enabled my drug use. So back when I had that substance abuse problem, like it really would affect my life, where I was making major life decisions based on my substance abuse. And thankfully I was able to recognize that pattern and adjust accordingly. I never had quite so much problem with alcohol, but it's certainly, like if I have more than a few drinks, it'll be very rare. It'll probably be linked to some sort of celebratory type thing, where maybe I had a really good week at work and now I'm out with friends or people I respect. So, yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I have actually one question. And I also want to say, before the question is about your running for election in 2020, see if we can help you, see what your thoughts are. But I also want to take the opportunity to thank you personally for your, because marijuana is not for everybody, and you being so open and vocal about your substance usage, I think is a good example for people. So truly thank you for standing up and being honest and facing those for the people. As far as 2020, I just like, could you clarify for us if you're going to be running for office, if there's anything we can do to help you between now and then, and if you don't want to, then that's perfectly understandable as well.
I've been picking enough fights, like both at the Capitol and back home, where 2020 is going to be, all right, let's have the rubber hit the road, and let's do it. So basically, I do view as like I feel like everything I do politically, it is kind of in the context of, okay, I need to win in 2020, because if I don't win in 2020, I feel like that sets things backward, where all of a sudden all the hardcore positions I've taken, either on education or on substances or taxes, I've really staked out a lot of kind of controversial ground, and so I need to be able to defend that. And it is a Democrat-leaning district, but to be honest, I'm kind of a great fit for it, because I can bridge, I understand the constituencies and I'm able to bridge it, and I've also picked my battles. So, I'm not talking about factory farming, I'm not talking about GMOs, I'm talking about it, but I'm not taking legislative action on those subjects, because I realized I want the Farm Bureau. I don't want to piss the Farm Bureau off any more than I have to, because they're, a very well-organized special interest, and as long as they don't hate me or want to see me go, I want them comfortable with me being a legislator. So I am kind of picking my battles that way. I'm picking a fight with public education, knowing that they're mostly Democrats no matter what, and we need to stop appeasing them. Everything I'm doing is in the context of winning re-election in 2020. I think I'll probably need to raise $100,000 to do that. The goal I've been telling leadership is I want to make sure I can hold the seat, again with $0 from House Majority Fund, and then be able to kick money back as just a token of goodwill to Republican leadership. That's kind of what I'm doing to help them tolerate me, because when you introduce legislation on psychedelic medicine, some Republicans think you are a little bit crazy. So, which maybe I am, maybe I'm not, I don't know. But it is, we're going to be in the district. I'll probably be doing door knocking this summer. Hopefully I can organize some mail pieces and just showing up. It's funny how people just showing up means a lot to people. So even, I went to the cattleman's dinner, and just by virtue of being there, oh, thank you so much for being here. It's the shallowness of, and that's the whole thing, is how do voters make up their decision? How do they make up their mind? Usually they just cling to one or two things, and that's the thing. So that's the funniest, that's what amuses me the most, is all this money's being spent on political advertising, and it's really just to a very small segment of the electorate that they're targeting that does affect these elections. So my district, it leans Democrat, but still very competitive, and it's probably going to be 500 people that will decide the election, right? Those are the swing voters that are in play that actually are paying attention and make up their minds in an intelligent fashion. And that was when I first started running for this office in 2018. One of the first things I did is I wrote a list of all the people I thought I was going to need to win over. So I literally listed them out by name. Okay, if I could get this person, this person, this person, this person, had a list of maybe 150 people, and that was like my targeted market, where I knew if I could appeal to these people, I'd have a really great chance at winning. And even like did additional market research. I'd see what these people said on Facebook about their political views. A lot of people said their political views were peace and love. So I put peace signs and hearts on some of my yard signs. You know, that was just the kind of market research I did when planning the campaign.
Thank you.
Anything else?
All right,
All
sounds
right,
good.
thanks, Devin.
Yeah, that's a good program. Absolutely. All right, so I know we're a little bit over time on where we thought we'd be, so I'll try to get through this next section fast. And then we got another one with Anders, and then we'll have our social. So if you want to kick it off to the next one. All right, so knowing your members. Obviously, this is something I need to do a little bit better, honestly. But you know, if you're involved in an organization, whether it's YAL or YAF or you know anything in that kind of sphere, even if you're not in a leadership position, it's really important that you know you get to know and build good relationships with the other chapter members, because you know we obviously have a national mission. We're obviously trying to achieve something, but we want to have fun while we're doing it, right? So we want to know each other. We want to become friends. We want to you know go to the socials and really get to know what's going on with each other. So as far as for actual chapter activities, it's really important to just know people's major, know what they're doing, know what they're interested in. And again, even if you're not in a leadership position, even just as a general member, it's good to know. It's especially good to know for me and Anders. So you know, if you're any of these majors, you can take on roles that correspond with what you're interested in and what your strengths are. And you know, going along that line, we're trying to offer you guys big opportunities, things that especially correspond to your major or political interest, right? That's why we have, when you sign up as a YAL member, that's why we have you put your political philosophy, so we can match you with, you know, potential job and internship opportunities that align with that. You know, if you're especially interested in getting involved, you know, we'd love to talk about leadership positions within the chapter. And if you're interested in going a step further, we are trying to get recruitment directors. So Anders over here is a recruitment director. So is Jason. Basically, those are statewide positions where you do kind of what I do, but on a little bit lower level, just overseeing the chapters, you know, getting to know how to run the network. It's a great thing to put on a resume because you'll be managing actual chapter members. And if you do a really great job with that, you can apply to be a state chair, which is what I do. And essentially, you oversee the network of 1 or 2 states and you know, all the chapters in the area. So when we're trying to get people out to meetings, you know, obviously we'll do our activism events, we'll take the sign-ups, we'll text through them, we'll get them all out to the next meeting. Once we get you there, you know, we tell everybody about the opportunities, and you know why it's important that they actually become an official member, because it really is. We offer all kinds of things to members, including job consultations, they'll review your resume, you get access to all our conventions, and a bunch of free cool stuff. But essentially, you know, we all have to be actively recruiting. It can't just be me and Anders telling people why they need to become members, because then it just sounds weird. It's like, well, why are you asking me to pay $10 to the organization? Well, it's because, you know, it's a show of commitment, and you know, we're all bought into the organization as a result. We all, you know, get all these opportunities. So it's important that, you know, we can all be able to tell people what opportunities we provide. Brandon, going to call you out a little bit here, because at the meeting you did exactly that. That was awesome. At the last meeting, you know, we had a new member who was just asking, you know, what's really good about the organization. You did a great job explaining it. Even after Anders and I kind of already gone over stuff, so that was really good.
Proud of you.
Yeah, good stuff. Awesome. So when you're talking about people, when you're talking to people about kind of why they should become a member, I personally try to sell them more on the things on the next slide that are about all the opportunities. But feel free to mention that you get your pen. I still did get one of those. Got a state chair pen. You get a bottle opener. I have about 50 of those. Bracelet. I don't know how important that is. And a T-shirt. The T-shirt actually ships separately. But yeah. So if you want to try to sell people on swag, go for it. I generally find that the stuff on the next slide, if you want to go to that, is a lot more effective. So basically, all the job and internship opportunities, the networking conventions we host, those are all available to official dues-paying members. And that includes our Operation Win at the Door program, if you're interested in knocking doors, as well as all our events, including YALCon and the Liberty Candidate Academy that they do after YALCon. It basically trains you how to be Jeff. You also get 10% off of YAL store items and mentorship from YAL regional directors, like Shannon. So essentially,
Oh, Jesus.
yeah. No. So anyway, the reason we provide all this to people who to only our dues-paying members is that obviously we don't make any money off of $10 membership dues. That's just insane. We're a $5 million organization, get tons of donations. We lose money on every single member. The reason we provide these opportunities to only dues-paying members is because if you've paid $10 to the organization, that's a show of commitment, and that's, you're not going to be likely to do that if you're going to be a waste of resources. So that's kind of why we do that and offer opportunities there. Awesome. We also have chapter incentives. I think I've talked a little bit about this at some of the meetings. We're right now a little bit under 30 members. What that means is if we get up to 30 members, then when we go to YALCon, we all get to go to the open bar with Ron Paul and Rand Paul and Thomas Massey for free. Normally you have to pay like $100 to get a ticket for that. So if we get like 3 more members here, we're totally set for that, for YALCon Memphis. We've already gotten the Ron Paul cutout, the banner. They still haven't sent us the store credit or the like, I think it's like a Papa John's gift card or something. But I have requested those, so at some point we'll be getting pizza. Awesome. So I wanted to go over this because I know we kind of use some weird sales tactics and stuff that people are kind of put off by sometimes. So I kind of just wanted to share kind of why we recruit and pitch and why we talk the way we do. So like I just said, it's a matter of sales, right? It's we've got Ty Hicks, our executive vice president for YAL National. He's a really big sales guy. The guy could sell crack to the Pope, honestly. No, he really could. But it's so a lot of the way we pitch things is really about sharing the experience, right? Because you guys, I assume, are all having a good experience with YAL, and if you're not, feel free to come tell me. But it should be something where you're excited to share it with other people and excited to tell them about the opportunities that we provide. And the other thing is, if you want to make that effective and you want to be able to get people who you think might be interested, you gotta know how to phrase things in a way that are going to make them more likely to take action. It's all about sharing that experience with them, because if you let them off the hook when you know that they're going to benefit from it, then that's really not necessarily the nice thing to do. It might seem nice to be just like, oh no, okay, no worries, I get it. But if you know that somebody's going to benefit from an experience, and you let them off the hook that easily, that's probably the more impolite thing to do in the long run. So yeah, as far as getting signatures, when we're doing recruitment stuff, make sure you just call it a survey, not a petition or a sign up, just because the second two sound like a lot more of a commitment, and I've noticed that has been a thing in the past. It's gotten a lot better, and we've been more successful that way. As far as getting new members, this is the one that people have a harder time with, the pitch on getting people to become dues-paying members. The first thing you want to do is talk about the opportunities. You want to start with that. Lead with our networking conventions, job opportunities, everything we provide as an organization, and then stress that the fact that we have dues, it's all about commitment and not about the money. And finally, think about phrasing like in absolutely every situation, right? So I know at a meeting, if we're trying to get people out to a phone bank or something, and you say, okay, raise your hand if you're interested in calling for X candidate. Nobody's going to raise their hand because the one person that wants to is going to be essentially publicly shamed for that. There's no shame in it, but they're going to be the one person who's taking action. If you ask people who aren't interested to raise their hand, then they have to take action in order to opt out, right? So just kind of thinking about phrasing like that. If we're at a meeting and you're trying to get people to become members, rather than saying, okay, who's not a dues-paying member and they have to raise their hand and get publicly shamed, ask who is, right? So now all of a sudden it's this cool thing that everybody's doing, and they're taking advantage of all these opportunities, so why wouldn't you? Awesome. So in absolutely every situation, kind of like the phrasing, assume the sale, right? So I would say, first off, if we're trying to get somebody to do something at a meeting, like make phone calls, we'll ask people who aren't interested to raise their hand and get everybody to sign up. But in general, if you're trying to get somebody to take action, one of the worst things you can do is actually ask them if they're interested in doing it. Because if they are, but they kind of have some objection to it, then that gives them an easy out, right? If you know somebody who's going to be great for YALCON, who will benefit from the experience, phrase it in a way where you're not asking them if they want to go, but still give them room to, if they want to say no, give them an out. But don't straight up ask if they're interested, because they could just say no. So as far as overcoming objections, I know Dan touched on this a little bit, but if you're trying to get people to take action, there's a lot of sort of BS excuses they'll use a lot of the time, right? So if somebody says they'll think about it, they're not thinking about it. Like no matter what it is. If you're trying to get somebody to become a member and they say they'll go home and think about it, they're not. They've already made up their mind, right? So this is kind of a running joke among state chairs of saying, I'm sure you have a reason for saying that. Do you mind if I ask what it is? No matter what BS excuse they use, because then if they have an underlying objection, they're not telling you out of politeness, essentially, right? They don't want to like be antagonistic and tell you why they object to doing whatever it is you want them to do. So they just won't tell you. They'll say, I need some time to think about it. I need to do some research. I'm not sure if it's a good fit for me, right? So if you say that, you're kind of politely inviting them to share what their objection is, so that you can then directly overcome it, right? So if it's about a time commitment, right, and they don't think they can commit the time to the organization, but they're not telling you that, you ask them that, they let you know it's about time, then you can just say something along the lines of, well, that's absolutely fine. We actually only require members to take action once a month. That's going to a meeting, doing an activism event, really anything that represents YAL professionally. 9 times out of 10, that works fine. Yeah, so as far as overcoming objections, the biggest thing is to not let their excuses become your excuses. Especially if you're a chapter leader, a lot of times you'll have people who don't want to take action for a variety of reasons that they may or may not tell you. And, it's very tempting to just, pass it on to the person above you and be like, oh, I didn't get them signed up because they couldn't commit enough time to the organization, right? But you and I both know, all of us know, that that's probably not the case, right? Nobody is that busy, right? I'm pretty busy. It's an hour a month, right? So that's not an excuse that you should pass on. Now, if it's legitimate, feel free to admit that. But if you're telling yourself the same excuses that they're telling you as an excuse for you to not take action to get more people, then that's just as big of a problem. As far as getting people out to YALCON, that's what these last 2 points are about mostly. It's not that people are ever really opposed to something like that. It's just if you're asking somebody to go to an event 2 months out, it's kind of hard for people to commit to that sometimes, right? Even if it's something that they know they'll benefit from. So just not being aggressive, but maybe pushing just a little bit harder and trying to encourage people to take these opportunities or take advantage of these opportunities for themselves is really effective. And once you get them there, they'll thank you. Absolutely true. At our kind of training event for the leadership team that I went to with Dan over, I guess, winter break, that was exactly what Ty Hicks was telling us. That you get people who don't want to sign up for YALCON because they don't want to commit to it, but you get 10 of them out there, you get them all in one room, they come up to you later at the end, shake your hand, and are like, thank you, dude, for letting me, for pushing me to come out here because it was one of the best experiences of my life. And you'll have a lot of people telling you that. All right, Anders, you want to come back?
Yeah, what's up, everybody?
All right.
All right, I'm gonna wrap this up, guys. Next slide. Obviously, we've been talking about a ton of different things, specifically with the activism stuff, and there are a lot of things that everyone typically has an opinion on, right? A lot of times, I would say the majority of people have an opinion on the social issues. We talk about mass incarcerations, we talk about the war on drugs, we talk about sex workers. People have opinions on that. And it's important for us to discuss those issues and have a conversation with people about those issues, because people are very passionate typically politically. It seems to be specifically focused on a lot of the social issues. And it's really important, like I said earlier, to discuss those, and those are the things that we want to talk about. And we want to talk about how we stick up for the little guy. Like, poor people are being just decimated and destroyed by the government, and we need to highlight that, and we need to discuss that. We want to stick up for the little guy, and it's important to. But then there's some other things. We don't really want to touch the economic issues as much, and don't say libertarian. Because when you say libertarian, people automatically put you in a box. They think of you in this certain light, and that you automatically believe this. When that could not just be more of a misgeneralization of this organization in general. I mean, just at our chapter alone, we have so many different people with so many different beliefs. It would be unfair to just cast the term libertarian. So, you know, focus on social issues. We're sticking up for the little guy. Don't focus as much on economics. Just don't talk about it, and don't describe yourself as libertarian. Do talk about free markets. We want to talk about free markets. You don't want to talk about economics as much as you want to talk about the markets themselves. I know that's kind of a confusing, it may sound like a paradox, but it's not. So you want to focus on cutting spending and occupational licensing and lowering taxes, because people have opinions on that, and you know, we want to discuss those issues. We do also, and this has become a big one, as all you guys know, we do want to talk about campus bias and what is going on. You know, there's free speech zones, a lot of that stuff. Certain speakers are being allowed for certain organizations and then not for others. It's not fair, and they're being very subjective in how they on how they are biased towards certain individuals and organizations, and that's just not fair. All right, now I'm confused because this is
The last slide was tailoring the message to the left. This one's to the right.
You feel me? All right, so
If you're talking to
to the right, you want to focus more on economics. See, I'm going to bring it all together now. See, for the right, you more want to talk about the economics, because that's where YAL will most likely agree. But then for the left, they agree with YAL on a lot more social issues, like socially progressive, economically conservative. You feel me? All right. So with the right, don't touch the social issues as much, because typically, you know, conservatives, Republicans, whatever, they're not as pro, you know, sex worker rights or legalization of marijuana or other substances, but they're much more with you on, or with YAL on economic issues. So, thank you, Deborah, for bringing it full circle. Tailoring to your audience is very important, especially on the left and the right. And like I said on the last slide, and this is a recurring theme, do not say libertarian for the exact same reasons I said earlier. It's just not good.
All right, now you got moderates.
Now moderates. Here we go. Do talk about privacy. You know, the Fourth Amendment is a very important amendment, and it's there for a reason, and a lot of our privacy has been impeded on for prolonged periods of time. So talk about the NSA mass surveillance, talk about TSA ineffectiveness, and how those are really prevalent and really important issues. Do talk about honesty and civility, like the win at the door and decreasing the power of lobbyists. These typically moderates will find common ground with a lot of those ideological beliefs and a lot of those topics in general. So it's really important to tailor like that specific ideological belief system and conversation to them as well. Do talk about limited government, because I think a lot of moderates in general will have, typically are very always, tend to be more open-minded because they don't identify with either like conservatism or progressivism, and they may be open and they may have very similar beliefs to limited government. But with moderates especially, while I talked earlier about specifically tailoring specific conversations to the left and to the right, for moderates, just don't bring up divisive issues, social or economic. It's not worth it. That's how you can turn a conversation off with somebody like them really, really, really quickly, and it's just not worth it. And like I've been saying, don't say libertarian. So another great thing in order to spread the message of YAL is social media. Obviously, a lot of us, most of us, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's a thing that we all typically have. And what's really, really, really great, especially for our generation, is sharing that information on social media. It's super accessible. You can show how our organization is growing, how you're growing in the liberty movement in general, and it can get out to mass amounts of people with just a few clicks on your phone. It's a very underrated tool, and utilize it. Share your experiences. I know that we now have a social media chair. We have a Twitter and an Instagram now. It's really great because you can share what we're doing, what's going on with us, and what's going on with the YAL Liberty movement in general, super quickly to a bunch of people instantly. What are we building? So YAL gets Liberty legislators elected across the country. We've been talking about it for the past 2 hours. Like, we focus on, like Operation Win at the Door, I know has been highlighted, is a paid opportunity to assist in building pro-liberty people in government. And there have been some crazy elections. I know one we were talking about earlier, Win at the Door, they were able to get a liberty like-minded person elected with just 9 votes. like it's an active experience with YAL. You are boots on the ground, super involved, and it's a lot of fun. I know a lot of people who've been involved in it, and it's a really great process, and it's really awesome to see a lot of these people that we want to be able to be in government, who are Liberty like-minded, to be able to get there, and you can definitely see the fruits of your labor through that work. Bringing people to regional events is also really important. You know, we've talked about YALCON, we've talked about stuff like that, and it's really awesome to have a bunch of people come together who believe a lot of the same stuff, feel a lot of the same things about a bunch of other things, see some great speakers, but also it's amazing networking. You can get amazing internship opportunities, and it can deepen your connection not only with the organization, but also people in the organization, and then your own beliefs in liberty in general. It's really important to be it's really important to be present and involved in a lot of the major campuses events for YAL. That's why we find our activist events to be super important and is a necessity in order to get our message spread. And also be a problem to the administrators, especially when they're impeding on the First Amendment rights. I know here at Iowa we've been dealing with that quite frequently, and we're trying to figure out how to really piss them off, and it's working, but we still got to find a more direct way to do it. But and like we were saying earlier, you know, there's been some free speech lawsuits and things like that. We are like, YAL is there to make sure that you're going to be okay, and then also to make sure that your constitutional rights are not being impeded on. So yeah, like it's very important to express your constitutional rights, and specifically if the administration is telling you you can't do that, you know you can, and we're here to make sure that that happens.
This guy in this picture next to Ron, that's Alex Stout. He graduated from University of Iowa a couple years ago. He was YAL National's free speech director up until a couple weeks ago. Great guy.
Be vocal, be involved, even you know, in your classrooms, or just if you're hanging out with friends, be involved. Many students are afraid to vocalize their opinions on a lot of stuff like that, but when you stand up and when you speak for that, you show them that, like, oh wow, there's a lot of people who actually believe like me. Like, when I came to college, I thought no one, I went through my own political journey, but I thought when I became more involved in liberty, I thought that no one felt the way that I felt, or at least they were scared to vocalize it. But then when I would have conversations with people, and then eventually when I joined YAL, I realized there's a lot of people who really feel the same way that I do about a lot of these issues. So be vocal, be present, and you standing up and saying something may change 5 people to be like, hey man, like or gal, I feel you, like I agree, like are you a part of something? Like being vocal, and it can just, it makes people more comfortable to stand up for themselves. And like we were saying earlier, be the own Ron Paul of our campus. Like speak up in class, be active, be loud, but respectable. I mean, no one likes a dick, so I mean, be nice, but share your views. Be the Ron Paul, like show your liberty opinions and beliefs on campus, and be unapologetic for that, because these discussions and these beliefs need to be shared, and you can be the person who does that.
Awesome. Well, I think that's our last actual slide. Let's give Andrew a round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
So yeah, we'll have our social in a second, but I wanted to show you guys something first. So YALCON Memphis apps are now open. Memphis will be in basically the middle of the summer, unlike some of these which might kind of conflict with school schedules. But applications are actually open as of, I believe, 2 days ago. So we want to go ahead and get everybody applied for this. Basically, it's like this, but 2 days and a lot more alcohol, and it's in Memphis. And yeah, I mean basically, and it's but it's like 1,000 people, right? Not like one tiny room. Get some awesome guest speakers. In the past, we've had Ron Paul, Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, Nick Freitas, Lisa Kennedy from Fox,
Judge Knapp, Thomas Massey, Justin Mosh, just great speakers like that. It's really a hell of a time.
For sure.
And you're around a bunch of people who are politically active, agree with, share a lot of similar views to you, and it's just a lot of fun. You hear some great speakers, you meet a lot of people, make amazing connections. It's really an amazing opportunity. So I hope that all of you guys can make it with the majority of us that will be going. But yeah, you guys should all definitely sign up, and yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So so the link for that is yaliberty.org/YALCON. Pretty simple application. If you got a laptop, might as well go ahead and fill it out. But we also have this nice YAL banner that we just got from National. So we're going to try to get a picture of everybody with this in front. And yeah, then we'll do our social.
All right, get up here. We need photos, everyone. How's my makeup look? No, we're just taking a photo with all of them.
Yeah, I did a lot of stuff.
Mostly like social media stuff.
Yeah, can you just stay with the photo?
All right,
Yeah. Come on, lazy guys.
Or if she wants to do 120 on that, but.
Andrew's version. Dylan? Andrew's
I'm
version.
soft.
I know you.
One makes it worse.
No, I feel like a lot of
It's like that coming down.
JPEG is lossy compression, PNG is lossless.
Hey, I just realized who's taking the photo.
I'll take it. You got a camera?
I guess I would say Jason, because he's got that massive camera.
We need better one. This photo.
Yeah.
Andrew, you want to get it on the side?
Yeah, I got you.
There's three.
Jason. Hey,
Feels like a rat.
we need a photo. All right.
Bro, we gotta stretch it out though.
Yeah,
You want me to
so
shoot it?
Jason
You wanna
can
get in it?
here.
Mr. Birdie squat beside it.
Don't mind.
Can we like squeeze in like a
Yeah, we
like a dumpling? I couldn't think of anything.
Oh, we should have brought the line.
Yeah, you want to get in?
Yeah,
So
do
we're gonna hold up.
What's that?
Yeah, guys, come
Yeah,
on,
Chris,
come
it's
together.
fine.
You know, put a shoulder,
Jason, nice
put a
to meet you.
hand on a shoulder.
Yeah, I like the sorority squad.
Yeah, sorority squad it.
Why don't you, can you get in just a bunch up a little bit more? I think I've got it, but it's gonna be kind of badly lit.
We don't have
I like the positive.
You like what?
Nothing. You'll realize in a second.
On the back of the phone.
Somewhere? Alright. Is there, how do we, right, where's your darn flash? Let's see if it'll help. There.
Is that an indica or sativa?
I don't know, see how.
It's a marijuana.
It's kind of delightful.
It is a one
It's kind of
marijuana.
active with the thing,
Overdose from one
with the slide.
You want me to?
Might do it, man. Sitting this thing in my family's group chat and said, Peter's hot enough for a heart doctor just told me that smoking one marijuana is as bad as 20 cigarettes.
That's what you gotta.
I mean,
All right.
You inject the marijuana straight in your head.
Like that's so long.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what's
Yeah, you can crush it up and snort it.
How much is one marijuana?
It's the best.
If you smoke the whole stem, that's my bad.
We're doing this like-
All right, y'all.
Stand-ups.
And make papers.
Stand-ups? Okay. We can do that.
It's an way fish.
You really wanna go.
Alright, make the announcements. Alright, are y'all good with beat-ups for the social?
Yes.
Buffalo Wild Wings? Alright. Good stuff. We'll try to figure out how to pack up all this stuff.
Yeah.
But, Dan, if you wanna get that.
Thank you all for coming. God bless. Godspeed. All right.
I think, because like, for the class, like, the labs we do are usually fixed, so I think from this point.
Oh,
Sounds
okay,
great.
thank you.
I just didn't know how long it was gonna take.
That's fast as that.
I don't think I'm gonna go to this, so.
Alright, yeah, no worries. Yeah, guys, we'll do the social. We're gonna go to Buffalo Wild Wings now, get some wings. Yeah, we're gonna go get some wings, so we can all talk there. Alright, yeah.
Either in session or on
Yeah, I can't make it to the social now, I
There you
was
go.
just wondering
Man,
when, like,
bus in the back. There's a guy on the other side.
8:30 p.m. on Wednesdays.
Hey, man.
We meet on the second floor in that room.
I unfortunately can't make it that time, I thought the other group that was, is there a way for me to get on like some email list or something?
We don't really.
Actually about to start,
Dylan?
I'm doing release, so I just.
They are active. We do our active events all day.
Okay.
Yeah, we might be able to.
How'd you find out the location?
So I'm with the attorney for so if he's
I'm aware of the situation.
I'm right next to it.
Actually,
Yeah, our activism events on Mondays, they're usually on either the Pinecrest or the Walkway. We get them from like 11 to 3, so.
I wasn't happy with that. Oh, no,
Oh, okay, yeah. I've heard of it.
Not like an office.